Welcome to another episode. So in this episode, I want to talk about first date number 48. I want to talk about my recent reenlistment in New York City. It was fucking awesome. And I want to talk about home security in a more broader way. Okay, so let me go ahead and get started. So first date number 48, super cute guy. Everybody has their types, right? Like everybody fucking knows my type, right? Tattoos, some sort of first responder, infantry guy, something, right? Like bodybuilder, strongman, something, right? Like I'm so obsessed with this and it's crazy because they're not necessarily great for me, but still enjoy their company. Still what I go for, still my fucking type. Can't help it. So number 48, same thing. Fucking first responder, really great looking guy, really smart. God, he was just a beautiful man. I hate to say that, but he really was. He was really funny. Okay, so here's the problem though, right? So we met on an app, of course, fucking Tinder. I love Tinder, right? So we met on an app. I don't know. We chatted, I would say for a good 7 to 10 days, almost nonstop. It was kind of awesome. Everything was really easy. Our jokes, landed correctly over text. We had a couple phone calls. We did one really long FaceTime. It was awesome as shit. Anyway, he's a really cute guy, totally my type, beautiful fucking blue eyes, could still see them. And the reason I could still see them is because I will never forget what fucking happened. So anyway, of course we met, and we met for a drink, and then this is all still fucking COVID, but a lot of places are still open, right, with the pandemic. And we went ahead and met for a drink and, just to kind of test the waters out, right? Part of it was just kind of like a joke, especially with my schedule. I'm like, I may make it, I may not make it. I might be late, I might not be, I might be early, whatever, right? So he was totally flexible and cool or whatever. And he's just first responder. He's I'm off the next 2 days. So I have plenty of time to wait for you, right? I'm like, okay, awesome. So we meet at a local bar. One of my faves, we have I don't know, fucking 2 to 3 drinks. It was awesome. Then we went ahead and headed to dinner. And the reason I will never forget his blue eyes is because we sat right across from each other. And then we ended up moving side to side because the place we were at was kind of loud. And we all know I'm fucking deaf, right? Though I recently got hearing aids and I'll talk about those. But anyway, so great conversation. Like I said, everything was really easy. Great sense of humor. We got along really well. Just constant, jokes. It was fucking awesome. Everything felt really comfortable. And we were kind of talking about when we would hang out again, because he has 2 days off in a row. And I was like, well, my schedule kind of sucks. Maybe we could have dinner or drinks tomorrow or whatever, right? But it's probably not going to be dinner. It'll probably be more like drinks. But point is, beautiful blue eyes, beautiful man, funny as shit, got along really well, fucking amazing biceps, right? Could not stop staring at them. Fucking awesome. Anyway, things are going really well. And then all of a sudden, out of fucking nowhere, because remember, he started off across from me. Well, then we ended up, because it was loud as fuck in there, he ended up sitting side by side next to me. So out of nowhere, we're talking. I'm telling a story about who knows what the fuck. I'm thinking I'm hilarious. I'm all into my story. I'm all animated with my hands and shit, right? And then all of a sudden, beautiful man, first responder, just reaches into my fucking plate and starts eating fucking food off of my plate. Remember, this is a fucking first date. Things were going well. The guy was beautiful biceps, blah, blah, blah. But fuck, man, what the fuck? Who raised you? I was so taken aback. It felt like he kicked me in my fucking teeth, right? So, and then I was stunned for a second because I'm telling a story, which I'm sure is hilarious. So I don't fucking remember what it was, but I was stunned. Felt like he kicked me in my teeth because his hand was all over my fucking plate, right? So then I did the whole looked at him, looked at my plate, looked at him, looked at my plate, and he was just totally clueless and just all into my story, which whatever the fuck it was, I'm sure was hilarious. Anyway, it bothered me. So we stayed there at that table for, I don't fucking know, another 30, 35 minutes or so. And the date had gone really well, but the food thing bothered me, and it bothered me on so many levels because I was for one, I'm generous. I swear I'm generous. If you're in my life, you know that I will probably give you the shirt off my back. I show up at your place all the time with liquor, alcohol, whatever, and I leave it behind, right? Food, whatever. I leave with you. I buy shit all the time for people. I'm very generous. But holy fuck, ask me if you want something from my plate. A lot of times, actually, when I go to a restaurant, and I used to drive Wes crazy, and it was actually really funny now thinking about it because it just occurred to me. because my mom does the same thing. So every time he would be at a meal with me and my mom, we were both like, do you want to try this? Do you want to try that? And it was hysterical because he had this face because it annoyed the shit out of him. But that's just the way I grew up. Like it's my way and my mom's way of showing you that we care. We want you to enjoy your meal. We want you to have our good food too, right? Anyway, but number 48 though, fucking just diving into my plate. And for those of you who don't know me, I fucking love wings, right? So eating my fucking wings, they were like fucking Harley garlic. They were like fucking Carolina style. I felt like he kicked me in my teeth. I couldn't let it go, right? So as I said, we're there for like 35 minutes. I'm watching like my wings just slowly disappear, right? And I like can't let it go. Anyway, it was hysterical to me because I'm like, fuck, everything else had gone really well. We started talking about the second date. As each fucking wing left my plate, I swear to you, his biceps were less cute. His blue eyes were less blue. Like I was totally like, okay, this is not going to happen. Like this is over because I kept giving the whole, body language clue with my eyes and totally didn't get it. Anyway, so we ended the date. It was fine. We actually had fun. Really good, nice hug at the end, with the whole like, yeah, see you soon kind of thing. And I never saw him again. Anyway, he's a good guy though. Holy shit. If you were listening to this, man, fucking ask permission. Anyway, before you take food off of another female's plate. Anyway, so the human factor, right, is definitely something I want to talk about, when we talk about, home security, right? So I'm going to go ahead and link to a couple of videos of Clint Emerson again, for the series that he did for 511. He's the ex-Navy guy that has written, I believe, 3 books at this point. And they're all about like deadly skill survival and knowledge and combat and, situations that can like help you, like hand-to-hand weapons, whatever. So it's awesome. If you guys have not looked at his videos or looked at any of his books or audio books, please do. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just talk about the human factor, right? So the human factor is one of those things that I think a lot of people put on the back burner or the bottom of their list when they start thinking about security and home security, right? So most of us spend a good chunk of our time at home, right? So with the pandemic, of course, most of us were home like pretty much the whole time. Unfortunately, I worked the whole time, but whatever. But I know a lot of people, were home more. And I know a lot of people started getting into home security more, which I think is smart because you never know what's going to fucking happen, right? We have the pandemic, right? There's like zombies, there's fucking like aliens from outer space. Like there's all sorts of shit that could happen, right? There could be fucking, I don't know, fucking zombie, vampire, fucking alien, right? That could like descend on your door. But the human factor is something to consider when you are planning out your security, right? So if you know anything about home security or you've listened to any of Clint's material and info out there, because he has a lot, there's basically like 5 Ds that everybody talks about, right? And it's not the D that you think I'm talking about. Anyway, okay, sorry, couldn't help it. Anyway, so the one of the ones that I think everybody thinks of instantly when they think about the 5 Ds for home defense is deter, right? So deterring is really just the question of having maybe like a great alarm sign, stickers on your windows, a military flag flying, like well-lit property, like something that if somebody is going to rob you or want to kidnap you, they're going to look at your house, they're going to see like the camera signs, like ADT or whatever the fuck, Simply Safe, whatever. They're going to see those. They're going to see a military flag. Depending on what state you're in, they're probably going to know that you're carrying at least one fucking, shotgun, if not several handguns or whatever, a fucking arsenal, right? Depends on where you are. So the military flag is usually like a dead giveaway for that, right? So typically, not to be stereotypical, but if you're going to have a military flag and, in your house, you probably have at least one fucking weapon or two, right? And it's usually a fucking gun. Anyway, so deterrence, right? So when you're thinking about home security, the first thing is deterrent. You just want to find a way to deter somebody from coming in to either rob you, steal you, whatever, right? So deterrent is like the first D. You just want to consider signs, lighting, military flag, what have you, right? You just want like the bad guy who has no good intention for you to cringe and be like, oh, fuck it. I don't want to go to that house. I'll go to the next house, right? Anyway. So the next one is detect, right? So when you think about like detecting, I think a lot of people think about dogs and cameras, which is awesome, right? Because you want to know if somebody's coming in, you want to fucking hear it, right? So that's why alarm systems are amazing. That's why camera systems are amazing. That's why dogs are amazing. But we're also in the day and age where a lot of our tech and a lot of our cameras like are all over our fucking house, like each room. Like I have 5 cameras in my small house. But the thing about it is I'm guilty of it myself. Remember the fucking human factor, right? So you're getting all these notifications onto your phone. Your phone's probably always in your fucking hand like it is mine, right? So at a certain point, you have to think about your notification systems, right? And you have to think about the quality of camera you have, right? So like Ring's really popular. It's like the fucking like fisheye, right? You can see everything. Which is good, but it could also pick up like the mailman. It could pick up a stray cat. So you're getting all these notifications. So heaven forbid somebody's really trying to like sneak onto your property and you're just ignoring the notifications, right? Kind of like a dog. Like if you have a dog that's always barking and you're always kind of like, oh my God, stop it, quiet, whatever. And they could really be like trying to warn you that somebody's coming. So the human factor, every D that we're talking about, think of the human factor, right? Okay, so think about the notifications on your camera systems for detect. Don't always ignore your dog. I have a dog. I love him. A lot of times he's super quiet. When he does bark, it's usually a sign that something is happening. So I'm kind of lucky there. I usually drop what I'm doing and go see what he's barking about. He doesn't bark very often, but I'm lucky. Okay, so delay. So the third D is delay, right? So basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to gain time, right? So there's all sorts of like laminates that you can put on your glass now that will actually stop like a brick or a rock or a crowbar or whatever the fuck, right? So like 3M has like a lot of great laminates for windows. And I'm talking about like the small like side windows, like the beautiful windows, but somebody could gain access, right? Depends on your alarm system. Some will go off if the window breaks, some will not. Depends on your camera system, right? So these are all things to consider, right? So if you go back and think about locks and door frames, right? A fucking lock is only as good as a fucking door frame, right? So when you think about delay, you want to think about having like longer screws in, more screws, the kind of screw depending on your door frame, whatever, right? So Clint goes into like a whole thing about wooden screws, which I think is just fucking genius because very inexpensive, but that could potentially stop somebody from kicking in your door. Like on the third kick, it may take them 10 kicks, it may take them 12 kicks. The point is you want to delay time, right? The other thing that I really like, he doesn't talk about as much, and I can see why he doesn't talk about as much, is motion lights. So if something happens at night, for the most part, somebody's going to come at night to take you away. During the day, they're going to rob your shit, right? Most of us are at work, even with the pandemic, whatever, right? So at night, you want to think about lighting, right? And you want to think about your camera lighting. So if you have like a really great camera system, right? But the light is impeding it and all you get is a silhouette, that's not really going to help you. I mean, it'll help you like detect, but it's not going to help you like identify somebody. Motion lights I like because I wear contacts, right? So I don't sleep with my contacts. So motion will help me see in the middle of the night if I need to, right? And if you also think about delay, I have actually tried this before. I don't have a whole lot of furniture. I'm a little bit of a minimalist, so it's easier for me. But in the middle of the night, how quick is it for you to get out of bed, go to the bathroom, go to whatever exit window you have, right? Kind of map it out at night. Like if you need to move like a candle, a lantern, lamp, whatever, like fucking move that out of your way, right? Imagine worst case scenario. So that's all delay, right? Because if somebody's coming to attack you in the middle of the night and you're tripping on like your own furniture, and you're falling, that's going to delay time for you, but that's going to give them time to catch you. So you want to, you want to put that fucking off as long as you can, right? You don't want that confrontation, especially if you're fucking tripping over like a fucking piece of furniture. So this brings us to deny, right? So when you think about deny, it's hard to think about deny because deny goes back to like you're, denying the entry and the access. But there's like so many scenarios that could go wrong, right? There's like the human fucking factor, right? So I guess when my whole thing is just think about like nighttime and think about like the dog you have and just think about how you can improve those scenarios, right? Like maybe take a look at your notifications, maybe not ignore your dog every single fucking time that they bark, right? all of that's training too, right? Like I said, I have a livestock guardian. He barely barks. When he does bark, I get up and, I look outside with him, and then I'm saying, it's okay, we're safe. Obviously, he doesn't understand English, but he understands that I'm looking and I'm like acknowledging that things are okay, and he calms down. So a lot of times, it's just little things like that, right? Okay, so remember the human factor. I don't care how many fucking like security fucking lights you have, right? I don't care how many cameras you have. I don't even care how many fucking weapons you have. If you are ignoring the human factor, you're missing like a huge piece, right? So a lot of it's like daily habits, right? Like things that you've all heard about before. If you are not locking your door, but you have all these fancy doors on there, I mean, that's a human factor that you're fucking up, right? So your security system is only going to be as good as the planning, and is only going to be good as the human factor, right? If you guys have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to me in any of the platforms about home security. And then, of course, I'm going to link to several of Clint's videos on 511, Clint Emerson. And if you have any questions, obviously, like reach out. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is definitely the human factor. Okay, so for me, as I said, I was going to share it. I wanted to share it, and because I mean it, and I think it's awesome. But when the towers were attacked, 9/11, I was in retail. I was not in the Army, and I was working for a retail company on 18th and 6th, Old Navy, and I was living in Long Island, so I used to commute to the city. And I used to spend a lot of time in the city, right? I fucking worked there, and then I would, go on most weekends, like when I had the weekends off, right? Because Long Island City, take a train, it's awesome, the convenience of it. Anyway, so I used to spend a lot of time in the city, and I used to go to the towers, and Krispy Kreme was like a big fucking deal back then, and they used to have the lights on, and I used to get donuts from a place that was where the towers were, and it was just a cool area, cool town, cool city. Like every once in a while when somebody mentions September 11, I think about that, and I think about the Bath and Body Works that was under there. I fucking still love Bath and Body Works, but I don't know for sure, but I am pretty sure that those people never made it out, right? They didn't really have a chance, because we all know what happened and how quick everything happened. But so anyway, so that always stayed on my mind. That particular day, September 11th, I was actually living in, Long Island, as I said, working in the city, but I had gone to Fort Lauderdale to visit a friend of mine who had just bought a condo on the inner fucking coastal. It's fucking amazing condo. Awesome. I went for the weekend, Florida and New York, the flight tickets are cheap, and there's like millions of flights, right? So I went for one weekend to get away, and we just like hung out and drank too much. I think we had pizza or whatever. Woke up the next morning, started to brush my teeth, turned on the TV, and holy fuck, like me, like everybody else, like my life changed slightly, right? My immediate thought was the Krispy Kreme and the Bath and Body people. And, I saw them all the time, and hopefully they made it out. But that stayed with me for years. Like that experience stayed with me. I say trapped, but because of all the flights and everything, I was stuck in Fort Lauderdale. I was trapped there for about 7 days, waiting for flights to come out. And, we didn't really have cell phones and all those things back then, not to the extent that we do now. So it was difficult to plan my trip home, right? Anyway, I ended up making it back to New York, and I ended up going to the city, and just those like images that are like permanently like embedded in my fucking head, I like never forgot, right? And just the level of sadness and the mood and the atmosphere, like it stayed with me. Several years later, I was a personal trainer, which I think a lot of you know. The economy started to change in 2008, 2009. I started to realize that I needed like a second income. I was like single, right? I was divorced twice at this point. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like I need more money, right? Because my clients at that point were buying less and less packages, right? So my checks were getting smaller and smaller, even though I loved personal training. So a friend of mine in the gym, I don't even know how fucking came out in conversation, but a friend of mine was like, hey, why don't you consider joining the Army? The Army just raised their age. And I was like, what? The Army? And they were like, yeah, I think the age was like 32 or some shit, but right now it's 42. And I was like, what? I was 36 at that point. I didn't really know anybody in the military at all at this point. I had just met Wes. And I was in great shape. I'm 5'10". I was like 150 pounds. I was like 10% body fat, but I was like a fucking walking billboard, right? So I was like in a crop top or whatever. And I was like, that's like a good idea. So this was a Thursday, like no shit. I went down to the local recruiting station in San Antonio and I was like, hey, I would like to join the army, please. In my fucking crop top. Anyway, so I went ahead and joined the army. I swore in that next Tuesday. And as they say, the rest is history, right? So for me, when it came time for my first reenlistment, I was really fucking lucky. I was combat camera. I was traveling around Europe for like 30 days or so. We were with the German army, and I have become friendly with some of the members of the German army in this particular unit because we worked together several times, combat camera. And we were in France all together. We had a flag, and we were like, fuck it, it's time for me to re-enlist. Let's go ahead and do the actual ceremony, right? So I will never forget this as long as I live. I was a reservist. There's great photos of it. And I re-enlisted. At Iron Mike in France, and one of my great friends, who was in the German army, held my flag for me. And one of my favorite officers, swore me in, and it was fucking awesome. So years later, it was time for me to re-enlist again. And since I'm at 12 and a half years, it becomes in-def at this point. So not to go into too much detail, but I was just kind of like, okay, this is the last re-enlistment, like, how am I going to make this special? How am I going to make it memorable? So, knowing me, I asked a few people on social media, what you guys think? I want to make it awesome. And sure enough, somebody was like, what the fuck? Why don't you just go to New York City? And then like fucking light bulbs went off. And I was like, holy shit, why don't I find a way to re-enlist at the actual memorial site? Because even though I didn't have anybody directly affected, it was always significant to me, right? So sure enough, I asked a couple of officers if anybody was available, right? Because I would have to fly or drive into New York City, and we would make it happen. And I am very fucking fortunate that 3 officers, agreed to do it. One got called to a school at the last second. The other just couldn't make it with family things, which is fine. But I got one, and I did a bunch of gunnery shit with him, and it was fucking awesome. He like flew in from another state for the weekend. I was with one of my really good female friends, and then 61. Okay, so it was fucking awesome. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail other than it was just fucking amazing, right? So we met in the city. We had like several drinks, the day before. And then we decided to go to the memorial and just kind of like see what we could do. Because at first, I didn't want to do it on the 11th. I was like, I don't want to take away from it. But then the more I thought about it, I was just like, it's a small ceremony. There's just going to be 4 of us. I'm sure we could do it, right? So we had tried going online and looking at permits and all sorts of stuff. And just a lot of the information online was conflicting. So sure enough, what we did was we all showed up, right? We had, my uniform was in my bag. The officer's uniform was in his bag. I wanted OCPs on purpose. I didn't want to be in dress. And sure enough, we met, we found a spot that was fucking awesome that he found, he scouted out, and it was basically in the middle of where the 2 towers stood. A friend of mine had bought me a flag, so it was fucking amazing. He's a Navy vet, and it was very emotional, right? So we went ahead and conducted the ceremony. I asked, before it got started, I asked civilians that were nearby if they could hold a flag for me, and they were actually connected to the Navy in 9/11, and it was amazing. So we went ahead and swore in. It was a great weekend. And that weekend, we ended up getting free food, several free drinks, just, for being in the military and just mentioned it in conversation. And it was just a great weekend. The city has definitely come back. There are a lot of businesses that are open and thriving. And it was a great way for me to conduct my final reenlistment. Okay, so the human factor, right? Okay, so if you're going to go on a first date, don't fucking eat off of the fucking female's food, right? Don't fuck that up, because that would have been a great second date, but it never happened again, right? Human factor. When you go back and look about home security, right? Think about the 5 Ds, right? Deter, detect, delay, deny, and defend, right? So I didn't really talk about defend on the last one, but defend is fucking obvious, man. Like, Don't be polite. Like, fucking, you're fighting for your life. You're fighting for the life of your friends or your family. If it's a home invasion and it's the middle of the night, use fucking night as an ally to you, because you know your floor plan. They don't, right? So fucking defend your friends and family. Defend yourself. Don't forget the human factor. All right. If you guys have any questions about anything, definitely feel free to reach out. And